Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Oh, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house, and that's right, I have a secret surprise in the house. I have Emilio Hughes Martinez in the house, and he's going to share some good stuff about the entertainment world. That's right, he's a filmmaker, all of that good stuff. But before we get started with any of that stuff, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. We're working over to YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Click and follow, subscribe to Miss Liz's Tea Times, and let's get these tea times out there, because each and every single one of them do make a difference, one cup at a time. So let's get the disclaimer out there, and then a little quick intro, and then we're going to be serving a tea. And today's tea is intuitive, resourceful, and observant. My tongue is starting to twist. It's getting late, guys. So let's get started with the disclaimer. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussions, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email, bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Times. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your decision and wishes and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Let me give you a little bit on who I have here. Good evening and welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where storytelling meets purpose and every cup pours carries a spark of change. Tonight, I'm honored to share the table with filmmaker, writer, and creative visionary Hughes Martinez, a storyteller who truly sees the world through a different lens. Born with dyslexia, Emilio learned early that words weren't barriers, they were pathways to imagination. As a director, producer, and screenwriter, he turned pain into purpose and obstacles into art, creating stories that move the soul and challenge how we see the world. From Hitman's wife Bodyguard to his own powerful project like The Fourth Branch, Emilio brings storytelling back to his truest form, connection. So brew your tea, settle in, and step behind the lens with us, where creativity becomes healing and every frame tells the truth our hearts have been waiting to see. Let me get him in here and let's spill some tea together. Welcome, Hughes.
Hi, thank you for having me, Miss Liz.
I'm calling you Hughes because that's what you told me to call you, so that we got you there.
There we go.
So I'm going to take you on a little rabbit hole like I like to take all of my guests down.
Okay.
Who was Hughes as a little boy and who is Hughes now?
Oh, as a little boy, I had a big imagination. I love to just see what the world was going to be like. I thought, yeah, the little boy I would say was like someone with a big imagination. Nowadays, I would say I still have an imagination in a way. Um, I would say now I'm a little more maybe more cynical. Maybe the world's maybe a little more cynical than I was when I was a little boy. But when I was a little boy, I was always out trying to have fun. I was a jokester. I would crack jokes on people, which I thought was funny at the time. I'm sure some others didn't find funny at the time. Yeah, I don't think I've changed that much in some ways either. Maybe fortunately, unfortunately, depending how you see it.
Well, I'm glad that you're in the house tonight and that you jumped on board right away. Like I like when I can surprise my listeners out there. So, what got you into filmmaking?
What got me into filmmaking, at a very young age, I kind of knew what I wanted to be. Around I would say 13 or 14 years old, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I didn't really know how to go about that though. So the first thing I learned to do was kind of write film because in my mind, I didn't really need like a crew or a set or actors or a budget. When you write, all you need is the pen and the paper. So that's what I did first because I just thought that would be the fastest or easiest way to create something. So I became a writer because of that. I was like you did introduce me. I was dyslexic as a kid. I guess I still am. It doesn't really leave you, unfortunately. Something that you just kind of have. So it wasn't always easy for me in a way. But like I stated earlier, I always had a big imagination. And one thing I've learned too over the years is like especially with today's technology, spelling, grammar, you need it, but it's not necessarily. I would say being able to tell a story is what you need to know more than anything.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up dyslexia because I have it as well, and it is, some people can take it as a downfall, and some people can take it as a learning lesson and move forward through it. And I like that you took the pain to purpose because that's what tea time is all about, right? Taking our pain and turning it into purpose. So, how old were you when you were diagnosed with dyslexia?
I think my first grade teacher, her name was Miss Duffy. I still remember her. She told my mother that I was dyslexic, or she thought I was. I went to like a small private school, so they didn't really have the resources to test you and stuff. So I had to go to like the public school before even like school started to go get tested and stuff like that. And they realized pretty quickly that I was.
So did you notice when you were young, like the letters were backwards, or the
Yeah,
pronunciation of letters? Like
letters.
I have a hard time pronouncing things. That's why I always ask people, how do I pronounce your name? Because I go with the letter, not the sound.
I can see a lot of things in my head, and in the sense of like I can see when I write something, I can see the story, I can see the characters. But when someone gives me a word, I can't really see the word in my head, unfortunately. It doesn't really work like that. I'm not sure if other people's minds work like that, where the word pops up in their mind. For me, someone will say a word and it's just like blank. There's nothing there. So you got to sound it out or do whatever you got to do to make it work, I guess.
Yeah, my spouse picks up on me all the time, and he's like, "That's not how you pronounce it." And I was like, "Well, that's how I pronounce it. It's my language."
I would look at a word and kind of just hope for the best that I'm saying the right word. I'll be like, oh, I think that they're saying that. They're like, no, they're not. It's like, well, it was close. It was close enough, hopefully.
Right? Or you can make a joke out of it. I bring a lot of humor into it too, right?
You gotta be able to laugh. You gotta be able to laugh at yourself and maybe not take yourself too seriously either.
Yeah. Well, we had a couple of questions that came in for you that I'd like to get out to tonight.
Sure.
And one was, you wear many hats: writer, director, producer. Which role first captured your heart, and how has it shaped your creative identity?
I guess my first one was, like I said earlier, would be definitely writing. It's I consider it a craft, something that I do weekly to try to get better every day. It's it's something I take seriously too. I don't just like if I'm not inspired at the time, it doesn't mean I don't write. You got to sometimes find inspiration, whatever it may be, to get yourself there. So it's definitely take it as a job of something that I do weekly, and that I did weekly even when I was young. So even when I was never got paid to write, I still was writing just to write, just to get better. Writing led to directing because mostly I wanted my scripts to be made by somebody in a quick type of time. When you're producing, I'll get to that. But when you're directing, that's the fastest way to do it. Is you write, you direct, you produce it, and you get your stuff out there. So that's what I did with it. The fourth branch and the method was, I was like, well, I want to make these stories, so I'm not going to wait for anybody else to make them. So I'll make them myself. And then for producing, I was working at Eclectic Pictures for a while there, over in Hollywood, California, and they produce a lot of bigger films like The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, stuff like that. And I learned really the ropes from their CEO and founder of how to produce. I learned some things not to do also, but I learned a lot overall of the producing side of the film and the business side of the film, working over there. And even though I'll consider myself a writer, I could plug and play I like to think into whatever role I need to be, especially when I was doing my own films. I wasn't just a director and the writer and the producer. I had to do costumes, I had to find the sets, I helped with makeup, whatever it was, you got to just do it. So I had, not just a director, writer, producer, I was doing a few other jobs also. But when you really want to make something, you just do whatever it takes. You don't really care what it takes out of you or financially or whatever it is. You're going to do it because, you have something that you want to do and you believe in it.
Right. You take that sacrifice to get to where you want to be.
Exactly.
Right. And that's something that I tell my listeners all the time, right? We have to sacrifice if we want to get ahead. We have to invest in ourselves as well, because sometimes people will not see our vision. And is that why you got into the directing? Was because you wrote the screenplay, and then you were like, well, I know where I want that character to go and all of that good stuff. Like,
yeah, I was, especially for the fourth branch, I was writing a story that had to do with politics, even though I'm not really a political guy, to be honest with you, but it was a political story. And I wrote it during COVID, and it was kind of like the idea that I got was, I'm a big news guy to this day. I love the news. I'll switch back from like CNN to Fox, and I'll see like the spin that people that they give you on each story. So, it's the same story, but the spin is so different from the story that is almost like, like they're telling it a completely different way. And I kind of got the idea of like, well, can you write something without being biased? Like everybody's kind of biased on something. So how do you create something without any bias? And then that's kind of where I got the idea of the script for the fourth branch. And it just kind of came to me too, like the idea of that, and then the characters and what was going to happen. It came really fast. So it was something that I enjoyed writing too. Something that was fun to write. And it was just something that I felt like needed to be out there in the world.
So Hugh, you do a lot of short films, correct?
I've done two. So I've done two award-winning short films, The Method and the Fourth Branch. The Method was about 15 minutes long and 15 seconds. And the Fourth Branch was about 39 minutes and 40-something seconds, 46 or so.
Nice little short films to check out.
Yeah. You can check out the Method on YouTube. The Fourth Branch right now is going through festivals. It's won a few. It's been an official selection of some other festivals. Let's see, the biggest one was probably like the IndieX film. It won Best Supporting Actor. It was also nominated for Best Independent Short Film. Melbourne International Independent Short Awards. I forget the one in Italy, but it had I'm dyslexic, so the name for the Italian one had a lot of vowels in it. I'm forgetting. I'm so sorry. And a few other ones. I don't have the list in front of me, but yeah.
That's when I say the tongue twisters come in. I can't do tongue twisters.
It's in another language too, and I'm just trying to. I would butcher it for you, but start with a V. So there we go. It wasn't bad stuff. Yeah.
Well, Hugh, I want to get out because I love having guests like you who have been in multiple different genres, right? The directing, the writing, to show my listeners that you can go into different genres. You don't just have to be the writer. You don't just have to be the director. You can open opportunities. And like you said, you even did the makeup. So are you a makeup artist?
No, you just got to do whatever you can do for the day. If someone doesn't show up that day, it's indie filmmaking. You gotta make it work. Same with sets. I never in Los Angeles. I filmed mostly in Los Angeles. You got to pay. It's called Film LA. I want to say, for lack of a better word, it's basically a racket. And they'll take your money and let you film on the streets. And when I say take your money, I mean tens of thousands of dollars they're asking for. And I don't really pay rackets, so I didn't really pay them. So sometimes the cops would show up and be like, "Hey, you can't film here. You don't have a permit." And I would always have an extra set in the back of my head that looked very similar that we could just go to. And the cops aren't going to follow you, and we'll just go and film there, you know. And then if they followed us, we just kept going to different places until we were done, you know. That's just how we did it. So, but I would say too, for filmmaking, especially nowadays, you know, with how technology is going so fast, I would say that it's good to have a few different tricks up your sleeve, or a few different skills up your sleeve, instead of just being a writer, or just being a director, or just being a producer. I feel like you're going to want to do more than just that, especially for a writer. I feel like if you're a writer that's up and coming, directing your shorts or directing a feature film is great, but really producing, you know, if you're trying to find a producer, the best producer should be yourself. I always thought that, and I still believe that. You know, no one's going to back you more than yourself. So whatever, if you need money or cast, usually that's one of the two things you really want as a producer. You should be outgoing to go get it, go look for it, go find it, and, you know, put some pieces together. So when you do get in touch with an executive somewhere, at a let's say an agency, or a showrunner, or someone at a streamer, you can make sure you're ready with a project that already has a few pieces for them, so they're not starting out with just, you know, words on a page. You know, you got money behind it, you got an actor attached to it, something.
So Hugh, what's harder, making the film or marketing the film?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it's harder probably making the film, making a good film. Anybody can make any film, but making a good film, you don't just need talent and all those other things. You need some luck too. If you ever like played on like a sport before, sometimes the ball just falls your way sometimes, you know, and you need the ball to fall your way sometimes in order to capture lightning in a bottle. So I would say to make a good film, it's going to be harder. I also say it's more fun to make a film too, though, than marketing a film. So even if you make a bad film, it's fun to do. It's fun to make a film, you know. I think a lot of people out there want to make films, but they don't really know what the first step is. You know, they don't really know what they should do to get there.
So how did they find the first step?
I think the first step should just be believing in yourself. I think that's the really first step is once you believe in yourself, and if you have something to say. I feel like, you know, you watch a lot of things these days, and a lot of people don't have anything to say. They're just, you know, creating to create. I think that's one of the reasons I don't really like Marvel movies and stuff like that. Just create to create. They don't really have anything to say, in my opinion. While if you have something to say, and you're not like throwing it down the audience's throat either, you're making them think about whatever you want them to think about. I would say then you should be making films 100%.
We have a question. It's storytelling through films is such a powerful medium. What do you hope audience feels when they experience your work?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I want them to leave questioning themselves in a way, and questioning what they saw, and questioning their own beliefs. You know, maybe they're questioning, why am I like this person, this character, or why do I believe in what this character does? Am I like this person? Am I, you know, do I have faults like him or her? But I definitely want to leave the audience with a question. I like leaving the audience with a question, and it doesn't have to be something like very. I'm not sure the word I'm looking for. Very like it could be abstract, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't need to be a question that you like throw out there at the end. It could be an abstract question that they don't realize is a question for a few days later.
And what inspired you for your very first project, and how did the journey lead you to where you are today in the industry?
I guess, you know, I've had a few different projects, but my first really big project is called Operation Underworld. I wrote the script back in 2012. It's a Mafia World War II movie, how the Allies used the Mafia to help win World War II. There was a bunch of Nazis in New York City. There was no CIA back then, just OSS. This is like really happened. The Navy made a deal with Lucky Luciano, who was in prison, to go murder the Nazis, and they let him out of prison, which they did. But they also deported him back to Italy. They didn't, or it was Sicily actually. And I kind of used that his history to like build off that you know, the main character, you know, he's running away from his problems. He didn't want his family was in the Mafia. His uncle's Lucky Luciano. He changes his name. But there was an explosion which really happened in the Brooklyn docks. A boat called the Lafayette sank, which really happened. And in my story, the main character, they start doing background checks. Everybody that was near the boat, they realize he's not who he says he is. they realize his uncle is Lucky Luciano, so recruit him to go recruit his uncle, who's not really like trying to help us. And that's kind of the story and how it started. Like in 2012, I was like at a bar in New York City, and someone told me a story about how his uncle helped murder people like Nazis, and I was like, oh, interesting. So I started like talking to him and kind of like probing him. Started just doing a lot of research on the matter, and then I started writing it. And then about 2018 or 2019, I met Nick Villalonger. He was a writer and producer for the Green Book. He came on and did a draft. Then we got in front of Millennium Entertainment, who does like Rambo, Expendables, a lot of high action movies. They gave us notes. We worked on the notes. We got it optioned. It was optioned there for a little bit. I got a director named James Cox. He did Billionaire Boys Club and Wonderland with Val Kilmer. I got him involved to be the director. Unfortunately, it did not get made by Millennium, and the option just recently dropped. So I'm looking for a new home for it. But like I said, I'm producing that. I wrote it, but I'm going to produce that. Or I found the director, but now I'm just trying to look for money for it to make offers to actors, or I'm trying to find a production company that will sustain it.
I want to talk about that Operation Underworld. How long did it take to make the movie?
Well, the movie's not out yet, so
it's not out yet. Okay.
No. So all I did was option it. So I basically got paid to write it from Millennium Entertainment. So they didn't get made, unfortunately. Millennium has gone through some troubles as of late. I won't get into them, but they've gone through some troubles as of late, and they won't be able to make the movie anymore. But when you option something, they still own the rights for a certain amount of time. So even though they were decided not to make it, they still own the rights until recently. So I had to kind of wait until the rights came back to me, so I could go back and find a new buyer. That's kind of how it was. So, but I worked on a lot of drafts on that. So 2012. I wrote the first draft. I've written a draft recently, like about a year ago, because I was getting it ready for another production company. So, 30 drafts, 40 drafts, somewhere around there in a span of 12 years, something like that. 2 drafts a year almost for the past couple of years. I was working on it. Sometimes I'll do more drafts than other times, especially when I had Millennium involved with it. They would want, they would give me notes, and I'll just start working on them. So, it was the first bigger project that I've worked on, writing wise.
I think it's important to get it out there, right? That it's not just always the first draft that gets picked.
No, never. The first draft is always going to be, not necessarily bad, but you're figuring out what you're trying to say and what the theme is in a way, and what you want the audience to get away from it. So it might not have the characters yet, or maybe the story is not really that compelling. But I feel like you either in the first draft you're going to get like the story is going to be really well shaped, and the characters aren't going to be there, or it's going to have some really pretty, not great characters, but the characters are going to be pretty strong, and the story won't be there. And now you got to kind of, at least for me, now I got to kind of find where are these characters going, what are they doing, or the story, who am I creating to the best show the story in a way.
So Hugh, how do you create your characters? Like, how do you get the authenticity into your character?
A lot of it comes from people that I know. A lot of it comes from things that I've heard over the years. But yeah, stories I've heard, people that I know. I like using people this throughout my life that maybe has some type of impact, or said something to me, told me a story about themselves, or maybe someone in their family. And I can use that as like kind of a jumping off point in a way of like, who is this person? Maybe, whatever the story was that was told about them, maybe that is what made them who they are. And that's what I want to show to the audience in a way.
I want to get into, because Marlene told me that you have a story about your great grandmother.
I do. She was a wild woman, that one.
Yeah, because what I got was the prohibition era,
prohibition era.
Bootlegging.
So back in like the 40s, I'm pretty sure it's still like this, but she was from a town called Crystal City, Texas. It's a small border town in Texas. Crystal City, Texas. Yeah, it's in Texas. Small border town. I'm not sure if it's still like this, but back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, it was a dry county. So Zavala County, you couldn't buy hard alcohol. You could buy beer. You can go to a bar and get beer, but you couldn't buy hard alcohol anywhere. My great grandmother Melande was her name. She had about like 8 kids, and she had a scam. I'll just tell people she was she was a scammer. She was a hustler. She was a criminal, for lack of a better word. And her scam was she was a witch, and to this day, people still think she was a witch in the town. She had people scared for a long time, a long time. And her scam, though, just to put it out there, was that she just read the letters because she would get the mailman drunk. She went to high school with him or middle school.
Oh,
And she
that's a good way to get the mailman.
She'll read your letter, put it back, come to you, and be like, like Susie or Miss Liz, your mother's sick. You're gonna have to go to New York. I'm telling you this because you're my friend, and I want to do this favor for you. And sure enough, 2-3 days later, you get a notice in the mail saying your mother's sick, and you got to go to New York. So in your mind, you're like, hey, this woman's like an oracle. She knows the future. She didn't know the future, but that was her scam. As time went on, she opened a letter one day, and it was from the United States Army, and she found out there was going to be an internment camp built in Crystal City during World War II for the Japanese. She got in her head, all these servicemen are coming. They're going to want to drink booze. So she went to Mexico. Pretty sure she robbed a store, loaded with her children, loaded up a truck, took it across the border, and sold it all and made a fortune. That's how she made her first big fortune. And it's a story in my family that's been told over and over again. And because my grandfather Emilio, worked for her for a long time until he got tired of her and left. And it was like, I'm not going to work.
He got tired of the mailman.
Got tired of working for her because she was not the easiest person to deal with. And that's just how it was. And so she did that. And the story, I'm using that as a blast off point. And it's a series. So the pilot is the story's kind of like she got the booze in. There's an internment camp already, but the internment camp lieutenant gets replaced by a new lieutenant. All former bets are off. People in her town are trying to take her business from her. None of this really happened, by the way. In real life, she ruled with an iron fist. No one tried to take anything from her. She made sure one of my great uncles was the first one of like Latino sheriffs in Texas. She kind of, because you have to even now, to be a sheriff, you have to be elected, especially in Texas. So she made sure the election went his way. And he didn't know what he was doing. He just was.
But she had control of the mailman.
Yeah, he was a young kid, like in his 20s, and he's sheriff of Cibola County. So she kind of made sure things went her way for a long, long time. And I think one of the best things about it is that Crystal City has, or at least it did for a long time, had 2 different cemeteries. There's one for just the whites and one for everybody else. And when she died, she was the first Latina in the white cemetery. So I think she was she crossed over in a way of not just being a hoodlum with brown skin in a way,
So she made an impact. She made a history.
She definitely made an impact, yeah, in her small community.
So what impact did that leave on you? Besides making this movie or trying to get this movie out about
you got to just go out there and take sometimes. You can't just ask for permission for everything you want to do. If you have something you want to do, you got to sometimes go out there and do it and take no prisoners, as my great grandmother did.
I like that message, because for my listeners out there, we always ask permission, always follow the rules, follow the guidelines, follow the systems, the programs.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. No.
You got to be the rebel, but guys, you got to do different. And that's what I like to do with Teatime is like be different, right?
100%.
I could take some lessons for the mailman though.
You just handed over the mail, got drunk for free, and she made it work. But she was also selling like potions, love potions. Like she was doing all types of stuff. She was, and then when she was really, really young, her like brother had a fruit stand, and she opened up like a rival fruit stand next to him and then like sabotaged his stuff, like burnt down his stand, like wild stuff like that. She was like 16, 15 when she did that. Like she was something else. She even burnt down her brother's fruit stand. I mean, she really took no prisoners, none, not one.
I can imagine the family stories that you get heard from your great grandmother, right? From your parents as well, right? Yeah.
Well, my dad, he was really close to her. So he was born in Crystal City. Actually, I take that back. He was not born in Crystal City. He was born like near Detroit, but like he grew up in Crystal City. And my grandmother didn't really want him around all the nonsense that my great grandmother was. So she took him to California and they left without telling anybody. She just picked up them, and one day my grandfather went home and the kid, it's my grandmother, and the kid wasn't there. You know, her dad wasn't there. So they didn't know where he went, and she was mad at great grandmother, and she found my grandmother. She definitely did, and made sure she came back or whatever. She didn't come back, but she basically sent my grandfather to go live with them. But yeah, tons of stories. My dad as a child, like my great grandfather Pop Malone. He took my dad to Perez Negras, Mexico. Went to the red light district, lost my dad. So like just went to the red light district, lost my dad, didn't know what to do. So he had to like call who was in charge, his wife, his great grandmother, like, hey, by the way, like I need you to come down to Mexico. Like I can't find Emilio. He's somewhere. And my dad was fine. They found him in a brothel, and he was eating chips and drinking soda. He was fine. But like stuff like that are just stories that happened all the time in my family.
Well, and there's not many stories out there about bootlegging, right?
A lot of the bootlegging stuff was like, I think bootlegging, like the Prohibition era, I want to say it was like 19 teens, not 1919, but before that, like 14 or 15. So a lot of the stories are during that era, during the 19 teens, and it's usually Chicago, New York, Atlantic City, where a lot of the Italians and the Irish and the Jewish gangsters were bringing booze in from, I want to say, like Canada and stuff like that. So this is,
let's throw Canada in there. That's where
there we go. Throw Canada in there. So this is, about 30 years later from Prohibition. This is like World War II era. So there, you could buy alcohol almost anywhere, but like still there's places in the South to this day, I want to say, that are kind of like you can't buy booze on Sundays. You can't buy alcohol on Sundays. You can still like that in some places, but back then it was even more like that. You couldn't buy alcohol at all. And I think it was because of like a religious doctrine and so forth.
Yeah. Well, my dad, when I think it was like 12 or 13, my dad used to go to the bootleggers, and he used to get booze and all that on the weekends because he couldn't get it in the liquor stores during the weekend, right?
Where are you going to go? You got to go to somebody. So you went to my great grandmother, and you're one of her kids, as crazy as that sound, one of her 8 children, and they would sell it to you. And who knows what else they would sell to you also,
Well, she had the love potion. She had a lot that she could give you, right?
Whatever you're looking for, they were going to help you out. If you had a problem of some sort, you would probably go to my great grandmother, and she would help you. She made a lot of things go her way. My grandfather, our great grandfather Pop Malone, he owned a garage. She made sure all the military contracts went through him for all the Jeeps and stuff like that to build the shocks. So I mean, she made sure that everybody got a little something in the family. So if it was contracts, if it was bars, if it was a club, one of the kids ran it.
So Hugh, you're turning that into a TV series, correct?
I'm trying to, I guess, like you would say, yes.
I think that would be pretty cool, right?
It would be cool, I think, and it would be fun to do. Each decade you're with the Martinez clan, so you're like in the 40s. You're kind of like seeing how she starts off. You'll like skip years, and now like if there's multiple seasons, season 2 will be the 50s. You got my uncle who became the sheriff. And you see how politics work. And stuff like that. Maybe he has to solve a crime. By the 60s, it'll be season 3. All the cousins are all my uncles and aunts. They all had kids. And they're all my cousins. And in real life, all the cousins, like when they were in high school, got tired because Crystal City was predominantly Mexican American in the town. But for instance, like all the cheerleaders in the high school were white, and all the like people that were like class president and stuff like that were also white. So my cousins and stuff and so forth, they walked out, and it's called the La Raza movement, and they all walked out, and it was like a somewhat of a bigger deal that happened in history for the Chicano movement. And it was also my family, but it was like the aunts and uncles at the time were like, hey, like we got a good thing going. We're making a lot of money. Like whatever you do, don't walk out. And the kids, did what they wanted anyway,
Money talks, right?
Yeah, and my grandmother had to put up with her, grandkids doing what they weren't supposed to be doing, Instead, she was trying to get them a job doing something maybe illegal. They were trying to, fight the power and do something, noble.
They were the little rebel.
Yeah, that was a good way to put it.
I like that. I like rebels. I like people outside of the box, because that's where we need the action. That's where we need the fun, right?
100%. I always say I like people with spikes. I like people who have a little chip on themselves. I don't like people who don't do anything. Like you gotta do something. I don't care what it is. You just gotta do something.
You're right. You just gotta do it.
You gotta do something.
Well, the tea that you gave me was intuitive, resourceful, and observant. I want to talk about those 3 words. Why those 3 words for your
You
team?
know what? They sounded good at the time, so I threw them down there and I hope for the best.
They don't sound good today, do they?
I was just
I
throwing
like that because my guests are honest with me.
I was throwing stuff, but intuitive though, I feel like you know, you got to be looking at what the people want in a way. I feel like more and more of like major Hollywood studios are kind of going away of what people want. You see like on social media, some people like, I want original stories, I want this, but instead they're making, you know, remakes and comic book characters and sequels and, you know, stuff like that. And I think, you know, times will change, and I think the studio system will change again. You know, the pendulum is always swinging. You look at history of film also, places like, you know, Germany were making a certain type of film, and then, you know, World War II happened, and they made like, you know, Nosferatu, and everything was kind of like dark and scary and dreary. And so, well, what happened? Well, war happened, you know. As times change in society, also the art will change naturally. And, you know, you just got to go along with the ride in a way.
Well, Hughes, you gave me the word grit. I asked you to describe yourself in 1 word, and you gave me the word grit. I've never gotten that word for a person. Can you tell me why that word?
You know, I've heard no a lot in my life, and you just kind of, you got to just shake it off. Whenever someone says, you know, you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing something right, or the story's not good enough, whatever it is, you know, you got to, 1, believe in yourself, and 2, you got to keep it going. You can't just give up on the first hiccup or the first time something doesn't go your way. You got to keep it moving. And I think that's something I learned also as a kid. You know, you just gotta keep going. You know, you can't just stop. You got to keep going.
I like that grit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that word. It's simple. It's easy, and I can say it.
I did it specifically for that. That was one of the reasons I did it.
And I asked you your favorite color, and you said blue. Why blue?
You know, that's a good question. I'm actually in my old room right now. In the background, you can see it's blue. I painted this wall. You know, I don't know. Maybe I was always looking at the sky or the clouds as a kid. I'm not sure, but always was a fan of the color blue.
I like that. You know, because colors tell us a story as well, right? It's part of storytelling.
It is.
So when you hear the word storytelling, what comes to mind for you?
Oh, the first thing I think of is a campfire, people sitting around telling like stories that they heard from their parents or their grandparents or their older generations, and it keeps going, you know, over and over and over again.
I like that campfire. I would have never thought of campfire with you. I would have thought of the mailman and the bootlegger.
No, the campfire. Well, you know, before the bootlegger and the mailman and everything, it was the campfire was first for humans. You know, that was the first thing we had of storytelling. People sitting around the campfire and you know, telling a story.
Yeah, growing up, I always heard if the milkman, or it was about the milkman, you were made by the milkman or something like that. I think there was a quote, something out like, and here is the mailman, right? So we have the milkman and the mailman, and we have the bootlegger. Like, what kind of story we got here?
Exactly. Something different, something new.
Camera or edit? What does the magic? Where does the magic happen for you?
What was the question? In the camera or the editing room?
Script, camera, or edit?
Oh, well, editing for sure is, you know, that is where it goes down, where the rubber meets the concrete, is where, because you can always go back and shoot, but sometimes, you know, things aren't either money or maybe actor looks different, something happened, you can't go back and reshoot. And you know, shooting and the script are kind of like ingredients, but once you're in editing, you're cooking and you've got the ingredients, and you can't really go back and change the ingredient. You got the ingredients of what you got, so you're going to have to cook up with what you got. If whatever you have in your mind, you better make sure you got it on the camera. So, you know, as long as, I always say, like, if you could see the story in your mind as you're writing it, and then as you're shooting it, you're making sure you're seeing. I already see the movie in my imagination. Like, I already see it before it's even shot. As I'm writing it, I see the movie in my imagination and see how it's supposed to look and what I want it to look. Then, you know, I sit down with my director of photography, the guy who does the camera work, and I'll tell him what I want. But he will also, like, as many artists, will have his own little thing that he wants to put into it. Like, oh, I like that, but I want to swing the camera like this, and I want to tilt up, and I'm going to make this, you know, person stand behind that wall because it's colorful. And I'm like, yeah, you should do all that. You know, that's what I hired you for. Do that. And then once the editing comes, though, it's you know, whatever ingredients that you put together, you got to cook them up because this is the time to cook it up, basically.
Favorite Mexican meal?
Oh, I'm simple. Cheese enchiladas, probably.
Oh, simple man with the grit.
Yeah, simple cheese enchiladas. Or a chile relleno. I can eat a chile relleno or a cheese enchilada almost every other day.
So do you cook?
I do cook. I'm a pretty good cook. I'm not, great. My dad was a good cook too, so I grew up watching him cook. He's something else. He could whip up a meal like it's going out of style, and he still can. He's in his 70s, and he can still just whip up a meal. But when I was a kid, I mean, he cooked every meal every day. You don't realize how much work that is until you get older. Like someone cooking every single meal, breakfast and dinner, every single time, and it was always a big smorgasbord. Big spread. There was food laid out when you got home. If you wanted to snack first, like hors d'oeuvre. Then there was the salads, the vegetable, the main meat, the potatoes, or whatever it was. I mean, he always cooks. So I'm okay. I learned a majority of my stuff from him.
Well, and let's talk about cooking, because on the film sets, right, people have to eat. So who feeds all these people?
So it's called Crafty Services. I didn't make this name, by the way. This is what they call it. And, they'll bring in food. It depends on the production. Some for my smaller productions, I would I didn't have that many people on set, maybe all together, 12 people, actors, crew, everything. So I can just go around and be like, we're going to order, in like some type of whatever it is. And I try not to do anything too heavy because you got to still work 6 more hours. So, maybe some type of like a lettuce wrap, something like that I could go around, and then, that's how you would do it for something like me. And then you always have snacks, you have waters, you have coffee. You always have to have coffee on set. If it's my set too, I like having beer at the end of the set, so then everybody can have a beer. Yeah, that's kind of how I do it.
And in the image here, you sent me a picture of the film festival, right? The LA Short Film Festival. How was that for you?
It was good. It was the IndieX Film Festival. We were. It does it like a monthly, so you put in like your film, and if it does well for like the month of June, like if it's the winner for the month of June, then you might be nominated for the Yearly Awards. Fortunately, we were nominated for Yearly Awards, Best Independent Short Film and Best Supporting Actor. It was fun to go. We didn't win the main one, the Best Indie Film, unfortunately, but my supporting actor won, and like. He always tells me, because I met him just working at a restaurant about like 12 years ago, maybe longer. He was always telling me, like, this is the only thing I've ever done that's like I've won an award for. And I've been acting, like he's in his 40s. He's like, I've been acting, for 20 years, and no one ever given me an award for anything. So I was actually happy that he won, and he was legitimately surprised and shocked when he won, and like he gave out like a real raw emotion, just like yeah, and like I was like, there we go, Adam, like. Let's go. At least someone brought home the gold for us. But the whole thing was fun. I was there with friends, met a lot of people. The Fourth Branch too it's a film that's not for everybody. When I make stuff too, I try to push, especially if it's something I'm going to direct. If I'm writing it, got to kind of toe it down a little bit, because I'm trying to sell this to get someone involved. I'm directing
it. Get some people, right?
Yeah, if I'm directing it, I'm going full bore. Like I'm just going to go balls to the walls. I hope people get offended. I hope people walk out. I hope people get mad. So the Fourth Branch definitely had some people who weren't. Oh, I don't know what to put. They weren't expecting what they saw, And I think a lot of younger people liked it, which is always fun, because anytime younger people saw it, they would like follow me out of the theater and like talk to me. While the older generation, I have to say, we're not always too happy about it. But it's a story that makes you question your beliefs in a way. So it's hard to teach old dog new tricks. Some people don't want to, especially if you're stuck in your ways. You don't want to think or question why you believe in something. It's easier just to be like, well, this is who I am. There's nothing wrong with that either. That is who you are. But as a younger person, they're still trying to discover who they are in a way. So it's easier for them to watch something and be like, oh, why do I think that? Or why do I believe that?
Yeah, well, it's hard to break those systems. And, when you're programmed a certain way, the older generation is like, nope, this is the way it worked for 40 years. This is the way it's going to stay for 40 years.
Exactly. So it was definitely I'm glad I made it. It's definitely got mixed reviews in the sense that it's done well in festivals, but I could tell some festivals also like they weren't feeling it just because I kind of pushed so many buttons with the content that I created. But, that's kind of what I want to do. I don't really want my work to be for everybody. I don't really want to have everybody to be a fan of my work. You
I
know,
like
that's just
that.
not what I don't. That's not something what I strived for at all.
I like that because I say that all the time. I don't want everyone to like tea time. You know,
Yeah.
if everyone is liking our work, then we're not being authentic with ourselves.
No, you're not. I feel like you're not taking that many chances.
Yeah.
You know,
You
so
kind
you're
of
not
just
taking any chances. You're playing it safe. Like why you got to play it? Why do you want to play it safe? You only get the dice in your hand so many times in life. Do you want to bet it all? Do you want to just go slow? Bet it all.
yeah.
See what happens. That's my philosophy.
Like I tell people that come on tea time that are writers, I'd like to be the bad tea time lady in your story. Like make me as bad as you can. Like something that would just be like, wow, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think good art pushes people's buttons. Really good art.
Absolutely.
What's going to like push people's buttons is going to make people maybe react some way. And like that's really what you want to be as an artist, someone who makes you react. You want someone to maybe walk out or be afraid or some type of emotion. But I definitely want to instill an emotion in you. I don't want you to leave and you forgot what the story was even about 2 hours later. I need you to feel something. So, and especially with films that I'm making for myself, I don't really have big budgets. I gotta rely on so many things. I can't really do gore, can't really do explosions, can't really do violence, because it costs so much money. But I can use words, and I can have my character say things that I don't particularly believe in, but the character believes in, and maybe it'll push your buttons a little bit.
When you send me something, it's Emily Dickinson. I'm leaving letters to the world because nobody left me any.
Yes, that was a quote that I read when I was really young, and it always stuck with me.
Why?
I feel like growing up that I was always watching something and I wanted to make something of my own stories to leave behind in a way. And maybe what I was watching didn't like it influenced me, but it wasn't what I was in a way. And I was still trying to figure out who I was in the world. And I feel like when you leave something for like the younger generation, it lets them like think about who they want to become or what they want to become.
And what's the biggest misconception about directing?
Biggest misconception of directing, that you're gonna probably make a lot of money and you're gonna be famous. That's probably the biggest misconception.
Producing. What's the biggest misconception?
A lot of people don't know what producing is. So I think people think producing is just I don't know what people think producing is, honestly, but producing really is just you looking for two things. You're either trying to find money for a project or you're trying to secure a talent, so an actor or something like that for a project. That's really what producing is. If you could find money, then there you go. I had the owner of Millennium Entertainment. He's probably one of the bigger producers of his time. His name was Avi, and like one of the bigger producers of time. And I remember one time in a meeting, he says, "You're not a producer until you put money on the goddamn table, and then you're a producer." And he's definitely signed some checks for $50 million or up for film. So he put the money on the goddamn table, and that's what he said producing was. That's what Avi taught me, or I didn't really teach me. I just overheard him say it, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'll say that probably.
Well, it kind of goes back to investing, right? You have to invest in yourself. If you want people to invest in you, you got to be able to be ready to invest in yourself as well.
100%. If the product is you, then you should be investing in yourself at all times.
What movie did you watch that changed your perspective on the movie?
That changed my perspective on the movie, like the movie business, or
movie business or movie itself. Like you thought you were going to see this movie and you thought it was this storyline, and then you got there and you were like, what the heck is this?
Oh, the newest one, DiCaprio, that just came out was like that for me, because I didn't really know what the movie was going to be about. Like Everything Bad at Once, or Bad, Worse. I forget what the title is. I'm messing this one up here, guys. But I watched it recently, and I went in not knowing what this film was going to be about, and I was very surprised at how great that film was. Also, a lot of Stanley Kubrick films can be kind of like that, like a Eyes Wide Shut type of film, or maybe like a Full Metal Jacket type of film, or even like The Shining. The Shining is supposed to be like a scary horror movie, but it's not really scary.
It doesn't. That is the scariest movie for me to this day.
Really? Oh, I watched that really young. I love that movie, but and it also it ends with a question too. You see Jack Nicholson's character in the picture for the New Year's picture of like 20 years before. So Jack just keeps coming back and killing people, or Jack maybe never left. You don't really, you're questioning yourself, like, well, who is Jack? Is he reincarnated? Is he there? And same with the kind of like a Full Metal Jacket. You're watching the film, You know, it starts off with like boot camp and basic training, which most people I feel like that part more than the second part, which is like them out in the field of like war in Vietnam. But I like the second part more because of at the ending too, like, you know, it ends with the soldiers just singing the Mickey Mouse song, like MICKEYMOUSC, and you're like, well, like how is it? Why are they singing that? It's like, you know, in a way, maybe they're singing the end of their childhood because they've been out, like, you know, in the battlefield killing people now, so they're not really children anymore. But maybe that's not it. Maybe that's what I got from it, and that's the question that I asked myself when I watched it. But I didn't. But maybe someone else watched it and saw something different.
How do you pick a song for a movie? Like when you're putting all the songs, the editing, like how do you find the perfect scary spooky song to put in there, like Mickey Mouse? Like
I already have an idea when I'm making something what's going to go there. You know, with rights and stuff like that, you know, and I'm doing indie filmmaking, so I can't, you know, get like a Rolling Stone song per se because it's going to cost me too much money to put on there. But I can, you know, I find people who can like help me create a sound that I want, or like a music that I want, and I'll give them like examples of other music and be like, this is kind of what I want, because this is like, I'll play it for them while the film's going. So I'll be like, you know, like this is what I see, but I can't use this, but we need something similar to this. Show me what you can do, you know, and I'll find a composer who can.
and who, if there's one actor or artist you dream of collaborating with, who would it be?
Oh, you know, probably like Martin Scorsese. Write something for him. You know, he's a great director. Probably, I think he's the greatest American director, besides maybe like Woody Allen or someone like that. But he's really, really good, and I think he's continued going to be really good for a long time. Well, I mean, until he calls it quits or whatever happens. But yeah, I think he's going to go down as probably the greatest American actor.
What do you like about Woody Allen?
Woody Allen, I love Woody Allen films, even though there's a good chance he was kind of a weirdo and did some weird stuff. But I do love his films, and I grew up watching them, especially with my mom. We watched a lot of films, and like he's really good at just like the love story. Like he is really good at the love story, from like Annie Hall to Manhattan to Cafe Society. He has those. He has a good humor. Like I love the humor of like small time crooks, which is like he has this a way of telling a story. And I like also how you could tell the actors, like Woody got old. Like he used to be in his own films, acting them. You could tell, or he did. And then as time went on, like he got a little old to play the love interest or the main character, you know. So he had other actors perform. You could tell the actors are doing like a Woody Allen impression, because that's supposed to be Woody, you know. So they're just playing him in a way. And I always feel it's kind of cool to see like each actor do their own impression of him in a way.
I think it's cool.
I think it's cool.
I didn't think I'd be talking about Woody Allen tonight. I actually like his movies as well. He does do a good love story.
Great love story.
He's good at love stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Annie Hall is like one of the best love stories of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Go and check it out, guys. All you listeners out there, go check it out right now.
It's a great film. It's not even just like, oh, it's okay. Like it's funny, it's quirky, you know, and it's very like, it's a love story that could be told anytime, you know, any era. Like if you're young in high school in love, or if you're old and been in love multiple times, you can watch that film and it will remind you of something. Remind you when you were in love with somebody, probably.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the pitch circuit a little bit. We talked about it before we went live. So for my listeners out there, do you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I was coming up with this this idea recently of how I can bring Hollywood executives, agents, managers, all to like a city near you. So that was kind of like my idea, because I have all these people that I know, and every single time I go travel somewhere and people find out what I do, they'll like pitch me their story, pitch me their script, whatever. They'll pitch me something, and they'll like ask me, do you know anybody who would be interested in this? And it's like, I always know somebody. So that was kind of my idea of like bringing executives, agents, managers over the nation to a city near you, where you come in and you pitch your ideas, you pitch your projects. It'll be the pitch circuit. So we're going to do the Bay Area, where we're scheduled for next month, but we decided to push it for a little bit. I brought on some PR people, and they have some ideas of how to get more reach out there, and also what else we could like offer the people who are going to be coming in. So we want to make sure it's all ready to go. So we were thinking about probably spring, summer of next year, we'll be going at it again for it.
So is it kind of like picture story, picture movie,
Pitch
picture
your
film?
story, pitch your script, and if it goes well, hopefully the manager or executive from the company or the agent will want your info. And that could be your spark or your catalyst to moving your career forward in a way.
Is that how some of you filmmakers find good scripts and screenplays like that by going through the pitches?
Going pitches, listening to people. I always tell people you never know what you're going to hear from somebody. I've definitely picked up a script from people who've sold before, and I read it and I was like, this is not that good. And I've also read stuff from people who just, they never sold anything. They just work on their craft. Read it and it was pretty good. It was a good script. It was a good story. So you don't really know what you're going to get. And I feel like that's the beauty of filmmaking in a way too. Or at least screenwriting. You never know what the pages are gonna do for you.
So where are they having these hot and these hidden pitches events besides the pitch circuit that's coming? Is it on like Clubhouse, green screen, green room, and all that
No,
stuff?
it's LA's a town, or Hollywood in general is a town of networking. So it really is who you know, and if they're willing to answer the phone and listen to you. So that's the one thing a lot of people say, like, Hollywood's dead, and then maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But one thing it has is like it has infrastructure, and infrastructure is never going to leave LA just because it's already built. You don't have to build it; it's already there. So because of that, you can always find, if you know where to look, find the agent to talk to, a manager to talk to, executives. Every single time I'm in Los Angeles, my calendar is booked up with just meetings with people, and sometimes the meetings are just like a general, which means just like general meeting. What have you been up to? What have you been doing? And a lot of it's kind of just BS too, of like, oh, I was at some golf course the other day and I saw so and so. Did you hear about what happened to them? I shot a 95. I can't believe it. It's just stuff like that. But you get close to people, and that's, people want to do business with people they're close to, and they really want to do business with people they relate to. So those, I think, are two things that can help you if you're on the hunt for representation or trying to sell something or whatever. You put yourself out there. I've definitely made cold calls before. Some of them didn't go through. Some of them did. Sometimes you get lucky and they just push it through, and you're like, okay, let's go. Like, I got to pitch this idea to this person who did not expect me to call them right now.
Do you use your great grandma's recipe? Get
I do
the
not.
mailman drunk.
I do not. No.
So final message that you would like to leave with everybody today, and how can people reach out to you and any good stuff that's coming your way, that's coming up?
Oh, best way to reach me is probably on Instagram. My handle is the LA Kid or Hughes Martinez. You can always reach me there. I always check my DMs or whatever. So that's a good place to reach me. And then I guess my final message is keep going. You got to have grit. You got to keep going. If someone tells you no, that doesn't mean it's over for you. It doesn't mean anything. All it means is that one person doesn't like your idea. And what does one person know anyway? They don't really know anything anyway. So you got to keep it moving. Never stop. That's kind of my philosophy of it.
Well, I really appreciated this conversation with you tonight, and sitting down and getting to open up about grandma, because those great grandma stories are really wild sometimes.
She's got some good ones. She had some good ones. It was, I don't know how so many people survive. My dad at one point too, like, he has a story of like him going over to her house, and like he was like 6 or something. Like, she thought she had like a bad like omen or something, so she like put like flour as a cross and made him lay there and like cracked an egg on his head and did like some like weird like Santeria type stuff. And like, I mean, he still remembers it. He was like 5 years old. My dad's like 74 now. He still talks about it. It's like, oh, like, she had some crazy ones.
Well, those crazy stories do make memories and moments as well, and maybe you'll get them into the TV series and have that little humor in there as well. So
yeah, I hope so.
Well, I just want to thank you again for joining and be my surprise guest for all my listeners out there. If you guys enjoy these surprise guest appearances coming up, please let Miss Liz know. We're going to do a closing summary, and then we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to be back Tuesday and Thursday next week, and maybe Monday or Friday. Keep your eye open, because Miss Liz has a lot of surprises coming your way. So as we close this tea time up with Hugh, I'm reminded that every story has a heartbeat, and sometimes the most powerful art is born from the moments we once feared were our flaws. Through courage, through courage, creativity, and compassion, Hughes shows us that vision isn't just what we see; it's what we feel, believe, and dare to create. May tonight's tea time remind you to look beyond what's visible, to find purpose in pain, and to see storytelling as a bridge between humanity and hope. Until next time, keep your cups open to truth, passion, and purpose. One story, one seed, and one lens at a time. And I'll see everybody next week, same time, same place, and we'll do this all over again, because that's just how Miss Liz rolls. And again, thank you so much, Hugh.
Thank you for having me, Miss Liz.